So once again, I welcome you all to this very special 140th session of Leadership Talks. As you know that these sessions are being organized by India International Education Council and School Lalaji Solutions. India International Education Council is a not-for-profit organization which is working in the field of education. It has collaborators from 12 countries. It aims to create a better world through education. Building quality centers for elementary education, approachable for all kids, is another goal of IIEC. It is also finding best educational practices across the globe and find ways to implement those in Indian institutions. It is also creating more awareness on hygiene and learning disabilities. It publishes a magazine called World Education Review and many other educational reports. It aims to build 100 chapters in different cities by 2022. It will soon open its membership for institutions and individuals. It also impart training for leaders, teachers, students, and parents. As you know that this is our 140th session. We have so far conducted 139 sessions. So during these 139 sessions, we have received 16,922 registrations, 15,993 questions. We have received participation from 7 countries: India, USA, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Nepal, Kuwait, and Russia. From India, we have seen participation from 22 states and 116 cities. We aim to organize minimum 200 sessions. With this, we would be reaching out to 100,000 educators, 20,000 institutions, and 1,000 plus eminent speakers. Like today's speakers would be joining us to share their perspective, ideas, and thoughts on national education policy. Now, I would request you all, please join me in welcoming our key speakers for this very session. Our first key speaker, a very senior education leader, Manju Lakhanpal ji. Manju ma'am is principal with Delhi Public School, Shahid Path, Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. She has an MSc, MA, B.Ed, and MBA. She is having experience of 17 years in teaching, including 11 years of administrative experience in capacity of coordinator, vice principal. She is an enthusiastic and caring educator who believes that all children and thrive in a learning environment that is stimulating, comforting, and appropriate to children's ability. She has been awarded by various prestigious awards like Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Award 2017 for Best Principal. She has also been awarded as an inspiring educator for implementing innovative pedagogy of learning in 2018. She was also awarded by Times Group for sincere contribution to the field of education in 2018. She has also been certified by CII Masoom chapter for educating children on eye care. We welcome you, Manju ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome, ma'am. Our next key speaker, another very senior education leader, Paramjit Kaur ma'am. Paramjit ma'am is principal with the Kamla Nehru Public School, Fagwara, Punjab. She has been working as principal with the Kamla Nehru Public School since 1st December 2006. She has 26 years of experience as a principal. She has been MSc of physics, B.Ed. She has been a gold medalist there. She's a well-traveled and well-read. She has visited more than 14 countries. She's a globally validated master trainer on 21st century core skills by British Council. She's also a British Council School ambassador. She's also a Microsoft Innovative Educator trainer. She initiated IT transformation in school and is pioneer in mapping the entire school K-12 United Nations 17 SDGs. She presently holds the chair of SDG Edu Chapal, education wing of SDG Chapal, which is dedicated to supporting the national and state governments and institutions on advocacy and community engagement for SDG implementation in India. We welcome you, Paramjit ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, ma'am. Our next key speaker, another senior education leader, Bharti Mankani ji. Bharti ma'am. She's appreciating the teaching capability for more than 25 years. She is an excellent educator who commands her marvelous worldwide commendation, gold medal, and scholarship in her graduation and post graduation, proving her eminence in scholarly skills. She's an illuminating veteran of an NGO with work to underprivileged, welfare village, and skill training for early livelihood. As a principal, she has proffered her services with ISC and ICSC exams as a supervisor. As a principal of Jaipuria Barabanki, she has lifted the graph with grace and efficacy, mentoring students to exhibit their finest scholastic and co-scholastic qualities. She has been graced with Human Resource Development Award twice by the Government of India. She has also received the award by Hightech India, Village India, EQFI, IntelliGem, Rethink India, followed by many more for her irreplaceable contribution to the field of education. He has got the brilliant opportunity to attend a 4-day retreat by European Institute of Applied Buddhism, holding a certificate with honor and grace. We welcome you, Bharti ma'am. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome, ma'am. Our next speaker, another senior education leader of Father Savari Muthuji. Savari Muthu sir is the manager with St. Michael Senior Secondary School, Delhi. He's a Catholic priest working in Delhi for the last 16 years. He has done his doctorate on social communications from Rome. He's also teaching at Niscot Media College at Vaishali, Ghaziabad. He conducts seminars, workshops, orientation programs for youth, teachers, priests, and religious. We welcome you, Savari Muthu sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker, another senior education leader, Husna Hasib ji. Husna ma'am is principal with the Creekside International School, Hyderabad, Telangana. She's a dynamic and versatile personality. She's a seasoned educator with over 20 years of experience, with more than 15 years of experience in international and British curriculum schools in the field of education. Her illustrious academic profile includes a first-class degree in Masters in Arts, in Childcare and Education, Bachelor's in Education, Bachelor's in Science, Diploma in Computer Application, Diploma in Designing. She has worked with many prestigious schools like Kaushalya Global, The Complete School, Hyderabad, Future Generation School, Jeddah, Al Faisal International School, Jeddah, International Indian School, Jeddah. Besides accomplishing academic and professional excellence, she has also been an eloquent speaker and a passionate trainer, and has been frequently invited to speak to teachers, staffs, members, students, and parents from various schools. With her enlightening and educational knowledge, an educator first, administrator second attitude, she has relentlessly aspired to create a positive and nurturing learning environment. We welcome you, Husna ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Raju.
Welcome, ma'am. Our next speaker, Dr. Meenakshi Narula ma'am, another very senior education leader. Meenakshi ma'am is the principal with Shamford Futuristic K-12 School, Auraiya, Uttar Pradesh. She was born and brought up in Punjab. She's a pedagogical leader, crafter, writer, and calligrapher. Dr. Narula holds 2 postgraduate degrees in IT and English. She earned her Bachelor of Science, Medical, Bachelor of Education, Physical and Biological Sciences from GNGU, Amritsar. She's associated with the arena of education and has been igniting young minds since 2001. She conducts various community outreach programs to reaching the unreached by conducting workshops, summer programs for the students and teachers of government schools. She has completed almost 1,000 plus workshops, webinars, and short-term courses for professional development on teaching pedagogy, NEP 2020, making thinking visible, life skills inculcation, among others, in India and abroad. Dr. Narula has been conferred with various awards for being the most famous, concerned, creative, and innovative teacher by different organizations. She is one of the top 500 teachers in India as certified by CENTA. She has been honored, with a doctorate degree in education for her achievements in the field of education and innovative pedagogy adopted, especially during the pandemic. She has also been conferred with the Global Teachers Award 2020 by GTA 2020. We welcome you, Meenakshi ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome, ma'am. Our next speaker, Dr. Abhay Chaubey. Abhay ji is assistant professor with SRM University, Haryana. He did his doctorate of philosophy from National Institute of Technology, Patna, Bihar. His area of interest covers composite structure, finite element method, strength of material, theory of elasticity, reinforced cement concrete, design and analysis of structures. He has been published in 13 times in national and international journals. He has also attended 7 international level conferences on technology. We welcome you, Abhay sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, sir. And our last key speaker for this very special session, Mr. Sunil Dangi ji. Sunil ji is the co-founder and CEO of eVango Solutions. Sunil ji is an IIT graduate from IIT Kanpur. He's having master's degree in mathematics and scientific computing. He's an actuary and also the member with Institute of Actuary United Kingdom. He's also worked with the ICICI Prudential, HSBC and Financial Risk Advisor at Ernst & Young, India and UK. He's an entrepreneur for last 6 years in telecom, food and education sector. He has been doing research on career counseling for last 2 years. Based on that research, they have come up with a wonderful platform called eVango, which is a digital career counseling platform. We welcome you, Sunil ji. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Rajat. Thanks.
So big thanks once again for joining. With this, we come to the next part of the session, which is the opening remark. So I would request all our key speakers, if we can have your quick 1 minute opening remark. So I would request first Manju ma'am. Manju ma'am, if we can have your quick 1 minute opening remark.
I would like to speak about the national education policy which has been introduced in the system very recently. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are audible, ma'am.
Okay. Basically, I feel this has come as a blessing in disguise because new education policy has opened up the ventures for most of these students in terms of their holistic development, if you ask me. The second thing is, due to the breakup which government has given, that up to 5 there will be a preschool and 6 to 8 there will be a middle school, 8 to 11 high school, and 12 onwards it will be a graduation. So I personally feel that the kind of infrastructure which they have introduced is that graduation the degree will be of 4 years. I think we all are aware of this. And the most important thing which I feel NEP has brought is giving a flexibility to the students. So this is one very good feature that the students can choose the subject of their choice in the future. And as we all know that physics, chemistry will not be mandatory for the engineering students. So somewhere it is giving a relaxation to the students. Because see, in our times we used to say that the overseas education has better infra to cater to the students' requirement. So I personally think that India is also getting into the footsteps of these kind of education. So NEP has come up with lots of formations.
Manju ma'am, this is the opening. Manju ma'am, this is just the opening remark part. I would be coming back to you for your main talk.
Sure.
This is just the opening remark part.
Okay, thank you.
So big thanks for your thoughts. We all are very excited to hear your ideas in detail. Thank you, Manju ma'am. And now I would invite Prajeet ma'am. Ma'am, if you can have your opening remark.
Good morning to all of you. I'm here to talk about critical thinking. Critical thinking has been given lots and lots of impetus and importance in national education policy. And how can we develop this critical thinking in our classroom? How can we make mistakes? How can we enjoy and make a classroom engaged? And how can we empower our teachers when it comes to critical thinking is what I'm going to talk about. And then ultimately call all school leaders to join me and embrace NEP. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Paramjeet ma'am. We all are very excited to hear your ideas in detail on critical thinking. We all agree with you. This is a very important area. Big thanks. I'll be coming back to you. Now I would request Bharti ma'am. Bharti ma'am, if you can have your opening remark.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Yeah, I am Bharti Mankani, Principal of St. M.R. Japuria School, Barabanki. I am here to talk about the early childhood care, which has been emphasized in the new NEP, the National Education Policy, which is built on the foundational pillars of access, equality, quality, affordability, and accountability. And this policy is aligned for 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development. So we are now here to discuss on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Bharti ma'am. I'll come back to you. I would also request if you can just I would say state your camera because we were not getting your full picture. So by the time I'll come back to you, I would request if you can adjust that. Thank you. Now I would request Sabari Muthu sir, sir, if we can have your opening remark.
Yes. Good morning to all. It's a pleasure that being with you all. I would be focusing on the value-based education, because the future, especially the 21st century, calls for holistic education. At the same time, also we must have a broad-mindedness. We need to be able to embrace all the differences, people of all faiths, people of different backgrounds, and so on. So my focus would be on value-based education.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. We'll be coming back to you. Now I would request Nusna ma'am, ma'am, if we can have your opening remark.
Good morning. Though NEP is a huge thing for all of us to understand, a few things that I would like to put forward in this panel of discussion. One would be the paradigm shift that is expected of in the teaching, learning, and assessment system that is to be implemented on our end as school leaders. So where we need to understand these changes that we need to bring in our school systems. Second thing is the strong emphasis given on the pre-primary and the primary education, where that 5+3+3+4 is introduced. Third would be the skill development that I would definitely appreciate that has to be followed up at school level by us. And the fourth is the holistic report card that is mentioned in the NEP. We would discuss this when we get the document.
Thank you. All are very important ideas. We are very eager to hear your ideas on that. Now I would invite Dr. Meenakshi Narula ji. Meenakshi ma'am, if we can have your opening remarks.
Yeah, hello. Very good morning to all of you. Myself, Meenakshi Narula. And today I'll be talking about basically the chapter 4 of NEP, which talks about holistic education and how we can provide holistic education by amalgamation of various strategies. It can be experiential learning. It should be, inquiry-based, discussion-based learning, art-integrated technology integration. There are a number of strategies that can be adopted to make the education really holistic. And I would also be giving you a glimpse of a project where we have just incorporated these various strategies to give this holistic kind of experience to our students.
Absolutely. Thank you, Meenakshi ma'am. I'll be coming back to you. Now I would request Dr. Abhay Chaubey. Abhay sir, if we can have your opening remark.
A very good morning to all the panelists. I'm feeling privileged to be part of this discussion. Education is fundamental for achieving full human potential and for promoting national development. Right to education helps to achieve more than 95% enrollment in primary education. So the quantity component is fulfilled, but the qualitative education is still waiting to see the light by the day. The new education policy 2020 has come at right time with a focus on qualitative component of education system. But the challenge is on the implementation part. Are we ready for it? After looking at the profile of all panelists, I think the discussion is going to be very interesting and fruitful. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhay. I'll be coming back to you. Now I would request Sunil Dangi ji or Sunil sir, if we can have your opening remark.
First of all, thank you, Rajul, for inviting me here, and it will be great to discuss about the NEP 2020 with the educationist. And I'll be discussing about the student will be choosing the subjects instead of the stream when they will moving to class 11 and 12. So it has given extra wings to the student, and how the technology can help to such student to choose the right career. So I'll be discussing about that. Thank you, Rajul.
Thank you, sir. I'll be coming back to you. So with this, we come to the next part of the session, which is the main talk session. I'll be coming back to all our key speakers for their main talk. All the speakers will get 8 to 10 minutes to share their perspective. But before I invite our first speaker, I just would like to share the learnings which we have had during our last 139 sessions. During our last 139 sessions, almost every participant shared that this is a wonderful document. This document has a potential to place India at that coveted position of Vishwa Gyan Guru. But at the same time, almost same number of participants shared their apprehension that execution is going to be very, very challenging. A lot of people also cited the example of CCE, that it was also a wonderful initiative but got failed due to poor execution. Many educators who participated shared that financial constraint would be a key challenge. Many people believe that good schools in urban areas already implementing many of these ideas. The biggest challenge would be for rural schools, budget schools and government schools. Many educators believe teachers training is a concern area. But at the same time, a lot of educators who participated shared their assessment that yes, teachers training is a concern area, but lack of intent among teachers to get trained is a bigger concern area. Many people who participated also shared their assessment that this pandemic has exposed the poor digital infrastructure we have in our country. So that is going to be another big challenge. So I would request all our key speakers that while sharing your perspective, your ideas, if you can also share some suggestions, some best practice which you are implementing in your respective institution, so that we can all learn from each other. Key speaker, Manju ma'am, if we can have your thoughts, your ideas. I would again request all our speakers, please, keep the time limit 8 to 10 minutes so that we have sufficient time in the end for the questions. Manju ma'am, over to you. Manju Lakhanpal ma'am, Manju ma'am, do we have your presence? Manju ma'am, I believe you are on mute. Okay, so we'll come back to Manju ma'am later. I would now invite Paramjeet ma'am. Ma'am, if we can have your ideas.
Sure, I would like to share the screen, please.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, your screen is visible.
Yes, just a minute, please. Let me come to the first slide. Oh my God. Sorry. Yeah, no, it's all right. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to all my fellow principals. Good morning to the brilliant, beloved teachers out there across my screen. I'm here to talk about critical thinking in our classrooms. I'm talking about National Education Policy 2020. And I'm talking about Chapter 4, Curriculum and Pedagogy in Schools, which is about learning should be holistic, integrated, enjoyable, and engaging. And of this Chapter 4, I'm going to talk about 4.5 para. Reduce curriculum content to enhance essential learning and critical thinking, enhance it. So we need to reduce the curriculum is what NEP tells us so that we can focus on critical thinking. Curriculum content to be reduced to core essential, the minimum which is required, it should be reduced to that. To make space for critical thinking, perhaps our classrooms are not critical thinking classrooms. And what is this critical thinking all about and how do we practice this in our classroom? So critical thinking is all about inquiry-based learning. Critical thinking is all about discovery-based learning. It is about discussion-based learning. It is analysis-based learning. We are not empty. Students are not empty baskets which could be filled with information, which could be just given everything we like to have them. So they need to inquire, question us. They need to discover, and then of course plenty of discussion in the classes and followed by analysis is what is required. Critical thinking is a very, very important skill in the 21st century. And why critical thinking is a very important is a very important skill in a classroom? Yes, critical thinking is very important in the classroom as it encourages creativity. We need to be creative people. Help us to solve problems. What is that education if we cannot solve the real life problem, even if we are educated otherwise? Help us to make better choices. I would like to go for hotel management, or I would like to go and be a radio jockey. What are my choices? If I can't decide this, then what is this education for? Allows us to evaluate information, tons and tons of information. Which one is relevant? Which one is right? Which is the fake news? Help us to think outside the box and allows us to explore different ideas. That's what critical thinking is all about. Moving on, what happens in the classroom? In our classrooms, it is just lecture, lecture, lecture. If teachers can provide only these lectures, is this going to develop critical thinking in our classrooms? If teachers can only provide content, if they provide only facts, if teachers only provide dates, formulas, results of researches, theories, stories, and information, is this critical thinking? Students can find information on anything, anytime, anywhere. Students can go to social media, they can go to Facebook, get information, go to LinkedIn, go to Instagram. YouTube is full of information. You don't even know how to pronounce a word. You please see a video. Snapchat, Pinterest, Twitter, and WhatsApp is a university of information, they say. Virtually limitless information is what we see these days. So teachers are no longer the main source of information. So the big question, how do we teach critical thinking in a classroom using these resources? Yes, children, students know how to use a search engine. Students know how to use Internet Explorer, knows Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome, Navigator, Safari, Opera, Edge browser, Bing. They know everything how to use them. But has anyone shown them how to think critically and validate the information, which is the right information? Synthesize information, how to have small bits and parts and make it into the right information added up together. Leverage, how can this information help me to build up my own personality, my business? How to communicate the information which I have taken. Collaborate. Should I go for an article? Should I write my blog? How do I collaborate and share this information? And how is this information used for problem solving? With all this information available, should our teaching be focused on facts and content, which we normally do, or should we focus on critical thinking skills? Remember, I'm talking about NEP and the focus on critical thinking. Critical thinking is not driven by answers. It is driven by the questions that students ask in the question. But what do I do in my classroom? I said, let me finish my lecture. You can put your questions in the end. Think of the skills used when teachers ask, how do you fix your car? How to find the best entertainment deal amongst Netflix, Amazon, Disney, Hotstar. How do the child needs to think critically, which is the best deal for me? Critical thinking. And that's what we have to live for in the world to find out and take decisions. How to reach destination using Google Maps? Pretty simple, but some of us still don't know. How do you join music class online with the advent of online learning and sitting at home? If I want to join a music class, how do I do it? Your connecting flight has just cancelled. What do you do now? Sit and cry or find a solution? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have a wonderful, wonderful slide here. And this, even the NEP talks about sustainable development goals and say that education, quality education, goal number 4 is in alignment, and NEP is in alignment with SDG 4. These are 17 goals, and these 17 goals have been signed by world leaders from 193 countries, and they have made a promise to people and to the planet for peace, prosperity of this Mother Earth. And what are these goals for? We need to talk about them in our classrooms so that we can develop critical thinking and solve real life problems. These 17 goals are very simple, beginning with no poverty, zero hunger, and we move on to quality education, gender equality, climate action, life on land. I've just picked up a few. And the United Nations 2030 agenda is to achieve these goals by 2030. Plenty of critical thinking here. How can we do away with poverty in and around my country? In my city, in my hometown, in my state, in my country and the world? How can we do away with zero hunger? Critical thinking. Good health, how can we take care of good health and well-being, especially during this COVID time? COVID times turned the world upside down. Education came to a halt, lockdown for education, but we did think critically. We used IT. All teachers who never used IT rose up, boards rose up, and we could actually, have no lockdown for learning for our students. Gender inequality, another goal, I'm talking about sustainable development goals, which even NEP talks about. Why should half the generation, half the population of men do everything? Where are the women as such? Why can't we have planet 50-50? Again, critical thinking, clean water. Why should a woman walk for hundreds of kilometers to get clean water? Why can't we not find solution? Critical thinking. We need to develop this critical thinking. Everything, Greta Thunberg talk about climate. Here we have goal number 13, which talks about climate action. So everybody is concerned 1.5 degree raise, the polar bear will not be there, there'll be ice melting. And if all the plastic has to be removed from our oceans and rivers, and how can we remove that so that our water life may exist, and then partner for goals as such. Moving on. So are we encouraging students to ask questions in a classroom? Are we creating situations like that? We need to think and ponder on it. Any lesson teachers create must encourage students to ask questions, encourage decision-making, work in groups, incorporate different point of view, connect different ideas, inspire creativity, brainstorm, and all this is nothing but critical thinking. We need to promote it. Critical thinking in students' engagement in a classroom, and this engagement in a classroom needs to be active, for long-time results, for creativity, for meaningful and applicable, and of course, help us to solve problems. A charge is to provide meaningful and powerful engagement in our classrooms. So where does it all start, my beloved school leaders? It starts with us. So let's all embrace NEP 2020. Let us promote critical thinking in our classroom. Let learning in our schools, in a classroom be holistic, integrated, enjoyable, and encouraging. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your wonderful and so thoughtful ideas of how we can develop critical thinking. Why actually we need it. You began by saying the curriculum content that is going to be reduced. Core essentials to make space for core thinking. You also shared critical thinking. You also shared the ways how we can develop critical thinking inside our classrooms. You shared the reasons. Critical thinking encourages creativity, helps us in solving problems. It allows us to explore. You also made a very strong assessment. We all agree with you, Paramjit ma'am, that teachers are no longer the primary source of information for students. Students don't come to teachers today for the information. They come to teachers for the perspective. And then you explain how we can develop those perspectives. You also talked about what teachers are supposed to teach today. They are not supposed to share information or facts. They're supposed to, inculcate those 21st century skills among their learners. You also talked about, the 17 goals of SDGs, why these are important, and how NEP is talking about those things. And again, you also share those ways how we can develop critical thinking inside our classroom. And you made a very, I would say, a simple but strong statement, and we all agree with it, that critical thinking is not driven by the answer, it is driven by the questions. Teachers need to encourage their students to ask questions. Teachers need to be encouraged enough to, to welcome those questions. And so big thanks for sharing your wisdom, your ideas, your thoughts with us on critical thinking. I'll be coming back to you with questions, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your thoughts, ma'am. Now, just if Manju ma'am has joined us, Manju ma'am, do we have your presence? Manju Lakhanpal ma'am, do we have your presence? Right, so now I would invite Bharti ma'am. Bharti ma'am, if we can have your thoughts, your ideas.
Yes, sir, sure. Good morning once again to all of you present here, all my teachers, my colleagues, and all other principals and educationals present here. So we have been speaking about the NEP from a long time, till the date, from the date when actually it came into framework. the framework had come in front of us about the details of what is NEP. There were a lot of confusions all around, and then we had a number of seminars, webinars, workshops, wherein to clear the main objective of the NEP. So objective of the new national education policy, if we summarize, is universalization of the education and achieving a global standard of education. So when we say achieving a global standard of education, we need to focus on the base. Where is the base? The base is the early childhood education time. So this is one of the main areas wherein we need to focus first, because we do believe that learning begins at birth. And all children are born with the capacity to learn, the most solid base on which the society can build upon. So if we are able to, make our base a solid and a strong one, automatically the goal or the objective of the NEP is achieved. So that is why a stronger stress has been laid upon the early childhood care and education, the ECCE, which was prior as ECE. Now it is ECCE, and the area has widened up. Here we not only look into the programs and the policies which are towards, move towards or attend, or which are framed towards the development or the increase in the educational level of the students from the rural areas, from the government schools till the private schools and all other education institutions. It is also the initial care which is needed, the initial motivation, the initial care which is needed to make the children, or to make the presence of the children possible in the areas, that rural areas, in the government school, wherein we can see a number of dropouts coming in. And because of these dropouts, somewhere around, the literacy level has not risen the way it was expected earlier. So this the education policy has stressed on this, that the early childhood care and education to be taken care of, and for which we accept that there are financial challenges which have to be faced by the government, because a number of programs and policies need to be come up. The training of not only the teachers but other stakeholders also in this field is required much. And in the areas, we have also already seen that the UNESCO's action have addressed the issue of early childhood care and education, and it has stressed on the areas of research, training, program, and information, which require a huge financial support from the government and other kind of support from the local people also. So it is not the responsibility of the government only to take care, but it becomes a challenge for all the educational institutions to be a part and take it seriously, and see that we as an educational institution and an educational body of this country can help in achieving this ECCE. Now, what is ECCE and what does it aims? The ECCE aims to foster holistic growth, development and learning of children from birth to 8 years of age. And as such, it involves the diverse and interlinked care and education development activities and support to parents and families. Dear, we are in a country wherein still, out of the 100, if I say 100% of the children coming under this age, it is less than 50% who are getting access to education because of the illiteracy and the situation among the people of this country, the parents who are not able to support their families are not ready to send their children to the schools to get education. And for this, a number of policies need to come out. A number of policies need to be adopted. And, with not only the adoption, the execution of policy is one big thing, one big question mark before us, because we come up with policies, but how much are these policies executed towards achieving the goal is one important thing which is to be taken care of, and which is one of the biggest challenge, I think, which our country is facing, will face. And the the target year of 2030, wherein we expect that the ECCE will be in full form, and the maximum number of kids coming under the year of 0 to 8 years will get education, will get quality education, and we will be experiencing sustainable development after that in all the fields. And I believe the education in these years, crucial years, the kids are like clay, wherein the way we mold them, they get molded in that. So 0 to 8 years is one crucial time wherein if proper direction, proper education is given to the kids, proper facilities are given to the kids, we can see the progress coming up. And from this small steps, when we take up, we will finally achieve the goal, which our new education policy, which we got after a long wait of 34 years, I think will be achieved to an extent which is being expected from this. So early education, the ECCE provides children with development and learning opportunities, not only in home, but outside the home also, wherein we need to train the children for their holistic growth. It is not only academics or not only teaching them a particular language or such. So for this, we need to get a holistic kind of a development among the children. And for this, the NEP has come out with so many flexible, changes and plans. Like one of the biggest flexibility which we have got is, the choice of subjects. It is not only now the students can choose the vocational areas also and take it as professional fields. And the best thing, which I think once we start adopting the NEP will be the student, when a child comes out of the school, he is ready to face the world, which we were actually facing, that after the school also, the child, when a child moves out of the school, he still find himself totally separate from the world which he is going to face. But now with this new education policy, I believe a child, when moves out of the school, will be able to face the world and face the challenges which comes before him, and be successful in whatever he wants to attain. So equal importance when you give to vocational and other co-curricular activities, we would automatically see a holistic development in each and every child, which will not only build up the confidence among the child, but also make the child gain the child courage to face the whole world, wherein the global the part of the global achievement, the global education, that achievement will be possible only if this is being followed. So the national educational policy has come to us, has come to an opportune time. It is one crucial time when the whole world was facing pandemic situation, and the COVID-19, wherein there was a huge challenge to retain the students who were already in the education, in the founder years of education. That was a big challenge for the educational institutes. At that time, we got this NEP, wherein which stresses on the early education period, the 0 to 8 years, to be the foundational and the most important period. So this has come at that time, and with this, if we all as an educationist and we as the different stakeholders, if we really pay a full attention towards this, we will see the gradual shift and the gradual change, and we'll be able to motivate and give that kind of feeling to the parents that education at this basic age is very, very important for everybody. Not only the children who are from the rural areas or from the backward families or from the low marginal group families, each and everybody has the right to get an education. So this is one important thing, I think, which the NEP has given. And if laid stress on this, we will be able to achieve the actual objective which the NEP says. So this is what, the main point is, that children in this age group, particularly those coming from the socio-economically disadvantaged background, have witnessed the worst impact of COVID-19 crisis. So this age group and the children coming from this background will be benefited from the new education policy, and we will see the gradual changes which occurs, and our country also will finally be there, wherein we will be able to say that we are developed, and each and every child in our country is getting a proper, good and quality education. Thank you.
Thank you, Bharti ma'am, for sharing these important thoughts. You
Thank you
talked
so
about
much.
early child care education. In fact, I believe after attending so many sessions, the one big achievement this NEP has already done, that it has created that mass awareness among people about the importance of these early years. So I believe one of the most common line which we have had during these years is that 85% brain development happens in the early years. Now, a
Early
lot of
years,
people
very
have
true.
formally so a lot of people have formally recognized the importance of these years. You also talked about how this NEP is going to help us in achieving a universalization and achieving global standards in education. You talked about the challenges which we have in that early child care education domain. You shared that very I would say disturbing fact that majority of children don't have access to early child care education. We all agree with you, ma'am. You also shared we need to build infrastructure for kids who are out of this who don't have access to that education. You also talked about the importance of vocational education, and you shared your assessment that equal importance to vocational education and co-curricular activities will create a huge impact. You also talked about that how each and every children, in this early childcare education would build a strong foundation, and eventually that would help us in building a strong nation. So big thanks, Bharti ma'am, for sharing
Thank you
these
so much.
important ideas. And
Thank you so
I'll
much,
be
sir.
coming back to you with questions, ma'am. Thank
Sure,
you.
sir. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I would invite Savari Muthu sir up. Sir, if you can have your ideas, your thoughts. Sir, you are on mute.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good morning to all. So, as I said in the introduction, that I would be basing myself on the value education, because being from the media background, we have a saying that bad news is good news for us. So I was really personally disturbed by the recent incidents that took place in Delhi and in and around Delhi, especially whether it is with regard to sexual violence against women or the minors, or even the harassment of people from other castes. There were one or two incidents in Ghaziabad, one or two incidents in some parts of UP, and even in Noida. So with this background, I thought I'll focus on the value-based education. So to begin with, chapter 4, number 28, where it's very clearly stressing we need to teach children from young age to do what is right. Doing what is right means based on ethical decisions. And it has given a whole lot of values, both the Indian traditional values and also the common values, the universal values. But then for us, how do we cultivate? Of course, we have in our schools, we have the celebrations of all different religious festivities, and then we stop at that. Do we really go deeper to ask them, like Madam was saying, talking about critical thinking? We also need to ask questions with regard to religion, both the merits and demerits of every religion, because we as a nation, we know the world envies us, because I was there in Rome for almost 7 years. When we say India, first of all, they look at us with a surprised look, because the so-called the incredible India can be seen on their faces. They cannot simply understand how we live together. People of different religions, people of different languages, different culture, even different food customs, they simply cannot understand that. They are not able to grasp it, comprehend it. But then for us, it is a positivity that we celebrate our unity in diversity. But then sometimes it is at because of some people. It's just a minuscule of people. It is such danger. And also the same is also carried forward when it comes to higher education. When you see point number chapter 11 and point number 8, once again it speaks about value-based education. So I personally, I feel that we need to cultivate this with a lot of vigor, and I would say I would also recommend that we need to have more of comparative study of religions, especially at the higher level, higher educational institutions, because very often we just stop at periphery, at the superficial level, that we know so much so and so about a particular religion, or even we have so much of prejudices, biases, stereotypes in our country, especially when it comes to people of other faiths or people of other castes, or even people of different language, different states, different regions. We have so much of biases, prejudices, and stereotypes. So if we can overcome these, I think it will be a great achievement for the new education policy. And also I saw some observations, it's my personal observations, that though it speaks about the constitutional values, which is, as Prime Minister Modi said, is our sacred scripture for India. Also, we have to also see whether all the values are being incorporated in the new education policy, because, for example, I didn't see the very word secular in the whole draft, the whole document. I didn't see not even one mention of so-called the word secular, or whether you call it secular values or secular, it's not mentioned at all. And the word religion or religious is mentioned once. Therefore, we being a multi-religious nation, multi-religious community, I think we should take pride in being a multi-religious community, because it's no more we need to tolerate each other. I think we need to celebrate each other, celebrate the differences, because we know even our own, we give to the children, to the students, we give the example of our hand. We say all fingers are not the same. At the same way, our country, India, is India because of the diversity. It's so multi-religious, pluralistic society that we need to take pride in it, we need to celebrate it. Therefore, I would say our whole education, whether it is from the tender age, from class 1, or even the higher education when they go to the colleges, universities, I think we need to celebrate this diversity, we need to appreciate, celebrate the differences and grow together. Because we need to aim at becoming Vishwaguru, because every incident, because I remember, because in Rome, even one small incident, that was the time when there was a Nirbhaya case, it was splashed all over the globe. So everyone thought India that is for India, because even one incident, one negative incident has great impact globally. So when we aspire to become Vishwaguru, I think we also need to take in this part also seriously, because we should not bring damage to the image of India, because India, the idea of India is that we are diverse nation, we are multi-religious, pluralistic nation. Therefore, we need to celebrate it. So I would say, I think we need to focus more on cultivating these values in our children, right from younger age till the end, till they complete their studies. And also, then very often we also give the excuse, when we give the excuse saying that, see, a lot of people are not educated, they're not literate. Therefore, that is where the adult literacy program comes in. It's not only be in the institutions, educational institutions, but also the adult education program. We need to cultivate these values, because people at large, all of them are good. No one is bad. So we need to cultivate that goodness in every person, so that we as a society, as a nation, we set models, so we become model, or we set examples for the world to follow. So this is my take, and I would still say it's a very good draft, very good policy, and we need to work on it. It's not somebody is going to implement. Everyone, every educator, everyone who is involved in education, all of us have a role to implement, and we need to give full support and make sure that this is implemented, it is executed and actualized, and we achieve the goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabaru Muthu sir. You talked about the importance of value-based education, why we need to inculcate this among our learners. You also talked about why we need to remove bias and prejudice, for different diverse people among our kids. You also talk about why we need to teach our children to respect and celebrate multi-diversity, and to make them more tolerant, so that we can value and respect our diversity and the idea of India. So big thanks, Savari Muthu sir. I'll be coming back to you with questions. Thank you for joining and sharing your thoughts and ideas.
Thank you.
Now I would invite Husna Hasib ma'am. Ma'am, if we can have your thoughts and ideas.
A very good afternoon to all the esteemed group of panel members. It indeed is an honor and privilege for me to be sharing my views and thoughts with this august group. I have been listening to the speakers for quite some time, even the few sessions earlier as well. It has been very helpful for us to understand the education policy. As we all know, a lot when we were talking about the National Education Policy 2020, a lot had been discussed since we received the first draft. Many of us started reading and understanding the policy, attending sessions to get a clear view as to how we, the school leaders, have to actually take this further at our level in the right direction that is expected of. And it definitely is a humongous task or responsibility on the shoulders of the school leaders who have to ensure its implementation in the right spirit. Now, the educational institutions have to overhaul their infrastructure to accommodate the new facilities for the implementation of the curriculum as emphasized in NEP. What I would like to talk about are the four things that as a school and I would think very important for me to get an understanding. First is the paradigm shift in the teaching, learning and assessment system that is expected in the NEP. Second is the importance given to the strong foundation at the pre-primary and the primary level. The third being the emphasis on the skill development that is mentioned in the NEP. Fourth, the holistic 360-degree multi-dimensional report card that we schools have to prepare for the students. Individualized report cards that we have to. Let me begin with the first thing, the paradigm shift. The schools have all faced a very drastic transition faced due to the pandemic. We are all aware, we switched to a new platform of online and virtual teaching, which barely existed earlier. That was altogether a new thing that came up to us. And the use of technology brought in that new dimension into the existing system of education all across the globe. All across the globe, everyone faced that, the teaching fraternity, the education system. The digital revolution that came, where teachers had to gear up to a new level without a scope to even look back. Overnight, they had to move into a different platform. This, I felt, was kind of a blessing in disguise that came with the pandemic. This paved way for us moving in the direction of the implementation of policy, where I understand we are talking about catering to the individual needs of the students and planning and helping the child come to the level that is needed at that age group and the class level. So these few things that came up with the transition of the our traditional system of education to this digital system of education that came through this academic year. Though the pandemic had a huge impact negatively on all our lives, I did feel the only positive impact it had was making us take that leap in our education system. The technological advancements that came across during this pandemic with the digitalization, quite a few softwares were developed in this last academic year that we've been understanding from the various people who come across. They have been planning to develop individualized content material the children can access, and they can take up the assessment on their individual level. They get an assessment of what they understood with the core content of the topic, the content there. Then they are also given a clarity as to what are the areas they are weak in. They can revisit the topics because the content is already available there. Then they take back the assessment to ensure that they have achieved what is needed at their level. So these are the few things that came up with the digitalization of education, I felt. And now, since we are a CBSE school, we were very glad that CBSE also came forward with the Diksha, the content that was posted there. That had been very helpful for the teachers to go into that digital platform and run smoothly. Even the training sessions by CBSE have been a great help for the teachers in this transitional phase, which would take them in the right direction of the implementation of the policy as expected of, I feel. CBSE has been arranging sessions monthly. We have quite a few sessions with the resource persons where earlier it was not possible for the teachers to get that kind of information and insight into the topics and contents they wanted. But now with the pandemic, everything being online, we just registered the teachers and they are able to get the best that is available all across. So that also is a positive effect that came up, which is in turn leading to the right implementation of the NEP that is expected of, with the teachers being trained, and we are turning into that system of catering to the individual children. These platforms have been very helpful from the CBSE, and there were also quite a few sessions arranged by the CBSE for the principals in collaboration with the universities abroad. We had the sessions with the Australian universities, we had the sessions with the Canadian universities, trying to bring that paradigm shift that is needed to implement this education policy. We are gearing up at a global level to be implementing it. That was one of the very positive things that came up this last few months, I felt. And now the second thing to understand is, though I felt the most important thing in the system of education is the strong foundation at the pre-primary and the primary level. I felt Bharti ma'am just spoke elaborately as to the importance. She emphasized the importance and reiterated everything that is needed at that level. I have worked with quite a few pre-primary and primary schools in this career of 20 years in schools abroad as well as India. I realize even at this level, many of the parents feel that this pre-primary education, that is the kindergarten or grades 1 and 2, is not really that important for children. They feel the child, we also realize that much more during this situation, where though we arrange classes for the school from grade 1 to 10, when we tried to start classes for the kindergarten, not many parents were favorable. They said this would be of no help. They have to sit with the child. They're not able to. Somehow that area was quite neglected during this online sessions. Then when we read about the new education policy, there was something mentioned as the bridge course. A bridge course emphasized that when the child has not studied the classes of kindergarten, the school should be arranging a program that they should be geared up to be taking to the next grade level. So we also worked on that bridge course for the children coming from kindergarten to grade 1. We prepared that, the senior teachers at our school did prepare that bridge course for a child moving from UKG who did not attend school for the whole academic year and is to take grade 1 this academic for the coming academic year. And running that bridge course, we felt, yes, we could do something in that 2 months of time that we could cater to. That was one thing that we have accommodated that is mentioned in the NEP. Probably we have to do that for all the classes where children dropped out during this academic year because of the switching over to online classes. Parents could not cater to their needs and requirements of an online session. Be it the internet, be it the gadgets, or whatever was a shortcoming. But if the schools are able to give that bridge course of maybe about 6 to 8 weeks and bring the child to that level where he or she is comfortably able to take the next grade level, I think that also responsibility comes to the heads of institutions where they can prepare and cater to this level. The third being the importance and emphasis given on skill development. An international school like us, we already cater to this in our integrated curriculum, where we have Tinkers Labs, the Catalyst Labs, where children from grade 7 onwards have classes during the week where they take carpentry, plumbing, little electrical know-how that is needed for children, and also robotics. These things, these are some of the very simple basic skills a child should know in their day-to-day life. A small switch go on, a fuse go on. They should be aware what exactly is happening. Though we study electricity elaborately till grade 10, but children are not aware even about a small thing as to how it would work, how it would go. Many a times I realize that these small things are taught at the first year of engineering to the students who pursue engineering at their level. And I feel our children are blessed that they're getting all these small things in a practical lab situation from grade 7 onwards. And I really feel they're blessed because the practically learning these things gives them an understanding and insight, and what they learn at this level, I'm sure they would never forget those basics. The fourth one that I've been reading and trying and understanding is from the education policy is the multidimensional holistic 360-degree report card. Though still we're still understanding what it is, we're still waiting for much more clarity from the we understand probably there's a panel that is preparing a clarity to give it to us how we go about. Definitely we'll have to get the teachers trained to be doing a justification to that kind of a report card that we are supposed to bring out from the school level. What I understand is it is not easy to be preparing a holistic report card at that level, but then when we are trained in the right way, the teachers are trained in the right way, we would be able to do it. Which would be not just an assessment of what the child understood, but then as expected in the policy, what the child has got and what he needs to get in the next further class. So these are a few things that I picked up understanding education policy, though I went through all the whole policy for quite some time. I feel these few areas, if we as school leaders start implementing at our school, maybe we would positively move further. Thank you, Mr. Rajat.
Thank you, Usna ma'am, these important ideas. You began by highlighting the importance of assessment and this 360-degree report card, which has great attention in NEP. Though, as you said, the more clarity is still needed on that part. You also talked about the integration of digitalization of education, demand assessment of our learners in multiple aspects. So we need to prepare ourselves for that. We need to train our teachers for that. You also talked about that individualized content, which is the need of the day. We also talked about the CBSE's initiative in terms of content and a lot of training which is being offered by CBSE. You also talked about how this NEP is going to empower our teachers, by various reforms, be it changes in the B.Ed program, be it talking about that compulsory 50 hours training program for teachers and school leaders. You also talked about the importance of skill development, the focus of NEP on the skill development. You also shared some best practices in your school in that vocational education domain. So big thanks, Mr. Ma'am, for sharing and highlighting these important areas. We would be coming back to you with questions. Thank you, ma'am. And now I would invite Dr. Meenakshi Narula-ji. Meenakshi, you can have your thoughts and ideas.
Yeah, hello. Good afternoon to all of you. Let me please allow me to share my screen so that I can go ahead with that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Your screen is visible.
All right. Yes, my screen is visible, so I'm just going to begin. So I'll be talking about chapter 4. Learning should be holistic, integrated, enjoyable, and engaging. So we'll be giving you a few glimpses of the activities that we are doing at our school to just, say this is our little pretty step to start implementing this NEP through various strategies. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay, so here I would be taking these aspects: holistic development, inquiry-based learning, discovery-based education, and discussion-based education, art integration, and sports integration. So I'll try to cover all this in 10 minutes. So we're showing it through garbage in, garbage out. As Paramjit ma'am has well explained about sustainable development goals. We also try to incorporate as SDGs in our education, try to incorporate in all our subjects so that we can provide holistic education to our students. Yeah, excuse me, sir. Yeah, extremely sorry. Sure. Am I audible, sir? Is my screen still visible?
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay, talking about this project garbage in, garbage out. So we are teaching through design thinking approach, design thinking that has empathy. A lot of empathy is being done. We define the students, they do a lot of empathization, then they define the problem, they ideate, they set prototypes, and testing is being done. All this that they are learning in the industries when they go from schools. Here we are try our level best to make our students industry ready. You see, 2 days ago, I attended a conference on circular economy. When industry experts, they were talking about circular economy, there I talked about in our school, we are providing CEE, circular economy education. That is really in sync with NEP. When we are talking about holistic education, experiential learning, holistic learning, skill-based education, vocational education, so how we can do it. So this is how I'm just going to give you a glimpse how we all can incorporate in our teaching learning strategies, really giving a holistic view of education to our students. So they are the steps that the children they follow, and you'll be having a glimpse of it. Certainly as NEP has already given CBSE, NCERT, they have given us learning outcomes, LOs, complete full-fledged document is there. So to reach that LOs, to get that learning outcomes, so we have to highlight some learning objectives that should be in sync with the learning outcomes. So procedure, we have followed proper procedures and proper follow-up was done. As empathizing, a lot of empathy is being done. Now, how come empathy? Talking about holistic education, talking about exploration, experiential learning. Let the children experience something and then they can conclude, then they come to one kind of solution to the problems. See, Gamba, we teach our students Gamba, exploring in the real place. The Japanese term that talks about problem, when wherever the problem lies, there you have to go, and then only you will be able to find a solution. You will not be able to give the solution while sitting in the four walls of a room unless until you experience. So this is what we have to teach right from an early age to our students. Lot of empathize the children. You see, talking about technology integration. So this time, how did we go about the virtual field trips? Earlier, we did a lot of empathization when we had some physical trips. This year, last year, 2020, this was not possible for us. So we had some virtual field trips. That kind of education was provided to our students. So as is rightly said, charity begins at home. So talking about sustainability, it is very easy to preach than to practice. So we make our students first practice, then only they will be able to share their experiences with others. So sorting biodegradable, non-biodegradable substances, whatever is available with them, so that they can actually realize how they can contribute in the achieving of the sustainable development goals. Examining the dustbins, Can you see here, I've highlighted visible thinking strategies. We are incorporating number of visible thinking strategies just with the objective of enhancing critical thinking, to develop creativity in our students, to bring them to the level of, you see, highest level of Bloom's taxonomy, the creation level. Think, pair, share. Again, number of strategies are being conducted. Think, puzzle, explore. Lots of debates, they are being done. Now, it depends upon a teacher how he or she incorporates the strategies in his or her lesson. So, prototype testing. So, when we set the prototypes, okay, when we experience something, when we empathize, we just ideate, okay, and then we set prototypes. This, yes, we have to do. Let us start with ourselves. Then when our children, they pledge, yes, we will not be doing this thing, we will not let others do that particular thing, we will be helping in achieving SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, and this is how they are setting prototypes for the others as well. At each and every step, learning outcomes, they are being mapped. This is what, when we are talking about assessment for learning, our objective is not assessment of learning only. That is the summative test. This is what we are preparing our students for life. And at each and every step, we are conducting number of assessments for learning. That is very well highlighted in NEP. And we are working in not only assessment for learning, but assessment as learning as well. So number of strategies, they have been adopted. So learning objectives are being set at each and every level. Different procedures and progressions, they are being defined, highlighted. A lot of causes, a lot of data collection, sorting, arrangement, that is also being done. So here you can see subjects integration. That is again highlighted in NEP. Maths, arts, languages. The children, they collect the data, they sort it out, they visually present, and then report writing is done. This is what subject integration. Now here, there are a few glimpses of more activities. Cause and effect analysis, focusing on 21st century skills, critical thinking, collaboration, and creativity. Drawing inferences, possible solution. Let them be a part of, you see, giving us this solutions, because they're very creative. They're very far-sighted than us. So lot of, again, they are empathizing. So how to, as I talked about, this is a project on managing waste, helping in achieving sustainable development goals. So they themselves, they, with the help of a gardener, see, they created the compost pit in the school, and they all contributed in that. This is real life-based education. This is experiential learning, as NEP states. Composting. So reflection strategies, whatever being done in the class, that is being mapped also. The learning is mapped. Now, why do we map the learning at various steps? So teaching is incomplete unless until learning is happening over there. Now, how do we get to know whether learning is happening or not? Now, where is the problem? Whether it lies at the end of the child, I mean, he's not able to understand, or maybe the teacher is not able to deliver in that particular way, the way that child understands. So that's why we need to check at various levels, and then we need to provide that particular kind of education the way our children understand. So again, prototypes are being set. A lot of plantation drives are being conducted, and just currently also we are planning a plantation drive during our PTM as well, when the parents would be visiting. So a number of plantation drives are being done. So let us first do it and set standards for others to do. So here, what does this picture explain? I mean, it is really not like that when we do something and then we leave it then and there. No, there is some connection. We teach our students when they are planting trees, it is very good. If they cannot, at least they should adopt a plant and should take care of that. That teaches values. Just right now, another keynote speaker has talked about value-based education. So these are the values. We are providing them values by learning by doing. So here, again, empathize. Interaction with the housekeeping staff, that is being done. So they are interacting with the housekeeping staff and how they are managing waste. So this is, again, learning through experience. Now, experience of others. Sometimes we experience, sometimes we learn from experience from other people. So those who are really working directly in that particular area, so here interaction is being done. Students, they are suggesting some of the measures to them. So this is again, you see here, Swachhta survey. What do? As when we talk about real life education, this topic I've told you, I will be explaining, just giving you one example. This is a project on biodegradable, non-biodegradable substances, managing waste. So Swachhta surveys was done. So earlier we used paper, but see, with the passage of time, we use technology. This collaborated not only with the school staff, not only with the community, but parents, everybody. And this time we used forms, Google Forms, to collect various data, various information. Then they analyzed. NEP says peer tutoring. Now, how we can make it possible? Peer tutoring. Let us map the education. Let us check what all topics they move from junior to senior classes, and accordingly let us help our senior children teach the junior ones, so that they can have that much confidence to have explained that particular topic. So this is a glimpse of peer tutoring that is being done through a number of activities, engagement. They are participating in various cleanliness drive, art integration. Whatever you are doing, just to reflect it. This is a glimpse of art integration.